and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is healing crisis. It's also known as a Herxheimer reaction. And I'm going to talk about that in personal and social contexts. So I'm looking forward to having this dialogue with you. But before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present and centered. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing every cell, every organ, bringing vital life force and energy into your body and your being as you exhale. Exhale any stress, any tension, any negativity, fatigue, toxicity. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, electrifying and energizing every electron, every molecule, and illuminating all your cells so that you're vibrating this incredible light outward. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining fatigue, any stress, any remaining tension, toxicity. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Really softly rub your fingers gently against your palms and feel how delicious that sensation is, and allow yourself to enjoy the fact that we can have these wonderful sensual experiences. Good morning, Suzanne. Welcome. It's great to start the week with you. And welcome to everybody else who's here joining us. Happy Monday to you too, Rosalind. So glad to see you here. And today we're going to talk about healing crises. I just recently got a new supplement that is supposed to be this miraculous hi Irma, welcome. This miraculous vehicle for balancing the body into incredibly good health. And there are all kinds of claims around it and how remarkable people are getting remarkable results. And so I figured I'd try it. Well, it calls for 3 to 4 scoops of this thing in the course of 24 hours. So I thought, okay, well, this is new to me, and I don't know, I tend to get reactions to things. So I'm going to just take it easy. So I used 2 scoops of it, and hours later, hello, Lisa, welcome. So good to have you here for this morning, as long as you can stay. So we're talking about healing crises, and it's also known as a Herxheimer reaction. So anyway, I ended up having an incredible Herxheimer reaction to it. So the first day I had a headache. And good morning, Tammy, welcome. Great to have you here. And I had aches in my body, kind of like flu symptom aches. Now, I haven't been anywhere that I could have caught COVID. So I wasn't really concerned that I had COVID, but I had similar symptoms. I was exhausted and I had incredible aches in my body, and I had a headache that just wouldn't quit. And so the second day, rather than taking 2 scoops, I took a half a scoop. And I have to say that I stayed in bed all weekend. Good morning, Dido. Welcome. I stayed in bed all weekend, and yesterday my normal temperature is like 96 something, and my temperature was up to 99.6. So it was a low-grade fever and headache and aches and fatigue, and what I experienced, now I'm feeling a whole lot better. And I am going to continue to, what I did was I reduced the amount of this thing that I took because it had such a powerful impact on me. I reduced it to a quarter of a scoop, um, to see if that would, if my body could manage that a little bit better. And then I'll work up to being able to take the 4 scoops a day. But fortunately, I knew about this kind of reaction. And in a way, that's a really, really positive thing because it indicates that there's toxicity being cleared. You know, I did it, it was a little too extreme at first. So it overwhelmed my system a bit. So I reduced it, and now I'll just gradually work my way up. But uh, Herxheimer symptoms are things like fatigue, fever, indigestion, diarrhea, aches and pains that are like a flu. And so it looks like a disease in and of itself oftentimes, you know, the purging, the cleansing, the clearing. And it occurred to me that maybe there's a similar dynamic socially to this internal dynamic of cleansing and purging, where it may look like the symptoms are worse, but in fact, there's a cleansing happening, there's a purging happening, and there's a healing happening. Now, you don't want to overdo it. So like I said, I'm moderating the input that created this reaction in me. But what if we look at the social environment over the past year, we can see that a lot of things looked pretty terrible. You know, a lot of things were seriously, hugely disruptive. And socially, I'm talking about, and politically. And maybe what we've seen is akin to a Herxheimer reaction or a healing crisis, that the process of healing from so many things that have been persistent for so long is challenging in and of itself in such a way that it looks like the problem. Good morning, Isabel. Great to have you here. It looks like the problem rather than the cleansing, the clearing. And in some ways, it's exposing the problem, right? And I think it's really interesting to notice this dynamic of how we heal. So as dis-ease presences itself in our body, it deepens and deepens and deepens. And good morning, Christina. Welcome. Great to have you here. We're talking about healing crises and Herxheimer reactions and how they apply perhaps to our social environment as well as our personal environment. I find it really interesting. Hello, Robert, welcome. We're talking about healing crises and Herxheimer reactions personally and publicly or socially. And there's also another function of Herxheimer reactions is irritability. And it's interesting. It's almost like the divine paradox. Yes, Lisa, I agree, right? That it's in the healing that we feel like we're experiencing the disease. But the idea is it goes deeper and deeper. And when it needs to come out, it comes out, it has to come out from the bottom up. And so you re-experience the symptoms in many ways. And I really see that as a social dynamic that we have been um, at the effect of. And one thing that I really feel about the Trump presidency, the thing that, and I'm not looking to get real political here, but one of the things that I saw is that it exposed the divisiveness in our country, how divided we are, and or how divided we've been, even though it wasn't particularly visible. And so I think it put a spotlight on that, and now we get an opportunity to be healing the divisions and finding ways to come together and address issues that have become visible that may not otherwise have been so undeniable. Uh, and so when we think about this healing crisis, where else in our lives might it be applying? You know, when we deal with emotional trauma, for instance, as we're in the process of releasing that trauma, it oftentimes becomes worse before it becomes better. Because again, it's energetically, it's coming up and out. So perhaps it's been tamped down for years and years. And now, in the process of relieving it, there's the awareness of it that is painful, and we don't necessarily experience it in the same degree, but we are purging it. You know, when we purge, we're releasing things, and it's not always pretty. It's not always pretty, but what if we can see this purge as part of a healing crisis, where we can recognize that we are healing, that we are moving through something, that we are releasing something, that we're releasing our pain and our sorrow and our hurt and our anxiety and our negativity and our limiting beliefs. You know, oftentimes pain happens to be a very profound motivator for change. And as we recognize the pain that we've experienced as a result of certain beliefs and ideas, then we often have a greater capacity and motivation to shift those ideas and beliefs. Good morning, Stacy. I don't know if I've seen you here before. Welcome. Thanks for chiming in. So, yeah, this whole idea of the healing process and what that looks like. They say that a fever is an important thing because it helps to burn off toxins, that we don't necessarily want to be suppressing a fever. And by suppressing the fever, we often end up lengthening the healing process or exacerbating the problem. So Lisa says, you're so right. Been healing trauma through recognizing life lessons, and it's exposing experiences that I must see in a different way. And it's disruptive to the system and draining until it relieves and we shift the beliefs. Exactly, Lisa, thank you for speaking that so articulately. Yeah, so healing trauma, even if we view trauma as a energetic experience, what happens is there's so much energy compressed around that experience, or those experiences, plural, that releasing it can be tremendously exhausting and disorienting. As you said, disruptive to the system. It can be very disruptive and disorienting because what we're doing is shifting our foundational frequency, really. And so in the core connection work that I do with my clients, it's a process that I've developed over more than 30 years. And it's the most powerful, reliably powerful transformational technique that I've discovered. And it's because it's so powerful because it's guided by your own intelligence, your own knowing of how your um, your psyche works, but not consciously, other than consciously, but it's guided by you. So the thing that is really fascinating to me is that when we get down to really intense stuff, and not having to necessarily recount details of trauma, but actually accessing the energy of those traumas and relieving and releasing it. And as a result, what happens very frequently is that the client is exhausted. You know, I have oftentimes had people just take a nap. I had one client who would fall asleep during sessions, and at least it looked like falling asleep, but I think that they were still actively processing. But yeah, so why do we get exhausted? We get exhausted because things are changing. The way that we're wired is shifting, and our brain and our body and our being needs the opportunity to recalibrate and readjust to the new configuration, so to speak. And in a way that, you know, if we think about physical healing, Herxheimer reaction is very much that same kind of thing, is purging, is shifting, is releasing in a physical way. I have twice, speaking of releasing energy in a physical way, I have twice had clients actually throw up after sessions. They were moving so much energy, and it was such a radical shift that their body just needed to physically purge as well. So it's remarkable that we have these capacities to transform our being and our energy. And Lisa says, would love to have more information on your work. Thank you, Lisa. I invite you, anybody who's interested in the core connection work, please go check out my website at yourcoreconnection.com. And if you're interested in the work, please let me know. I have a cohort that started on the beginning of February, but I have made, it's a 3-month program, so February, March, April, but I have made concessions for a couple people who were unable to start in the beginning of February. They're going to start March. It'll be March, April, May. And so in other words, there's still a chance to get into this cohort. And one of the incentives maybe to get into this cohort is that I'm going to, in June, start teaching how to do this core connection work for the very first time. And the criteria for being able to participate in that course is to have done at least one segment, one cohort of the core connection work. So if anybody out there is interested, it's really amazingly powerful work. And I can say that without it being about ego, because I'm not the one that is so brilliant in making it work. You are. because it's working with your own awareness. So I invite you to check out the website. If you're interested, reach out to me, and we can talk about details, and there's still a chance to get involved in it. So thank you, Dido, for posting the website link. Christina says, when I was doing massage therapy, I saw many physical reactions in a variety of ways to trauma release. Exactly. And so the body has its own intelligence. We've worked with the body intelligence before, but the body has its own intelligence and memory and stores trauma physically. And what is it that it's storing? What is the trauma that's being stored? It's energy. It's condensed, compressed energy. And so massage therapists often find that people have deep emotional releases when they are having a massage, because things are so deeply embedded, actually stored in the tissues. And also, we do have physical reactions that are emotionally founded. For instance, I worked with someone, this was years and years ago, when I was still like experimenting with energy work, and it just like where it was still pretty new. And I did a core connection session of a sort on a guy who had chronic back pain for all his life, was on all kinds of medications. He was a pilot. And we did this session, and his back pain was, I don't remember if it completely disappeared or if it went away to a very high percentage. So Judy, welcome. I don't think I've seen you here, new here, and trying new supplements, food, etc. Good idea to check if it's appropriate for us, and if so, the correct amount through muscle testing or other modalities. I agree. Our body is our home and sends messages to us to pay attention, physical, mental, and emotional issues, wherever they come from. Absolutely, Judy. I agree with you 100%. And so, you know, I probably should have muscle tested to see what the appropriate amount of this new supplement would be for me. And I took, it turned out that it was like 1/8 of what I ended up taking, and like 1/16 of the recommended amount. So we all have different, what's the word, different thresholds for different supplements. But what it confirmed for me is that my system was a lot more toxic than I imagined. And actually, I have to say that the extreme reaction that I had to this thing, even though I questioned if maybe, you know, I had my moments of questioning if maybe it was poisoning me instead of helping me. Even though I had that reaction, in a way, it was very hopeful to me that this thing might really make a difference, that it might really help to cleanse my system. So I with my background understanding Herxheimer reactions and healing crisis, have hope as a result of my experience. So Dido says, Dido, here I can testify to the power of Mira's coaching. I feel so blessed to have found her. Dido, thank you. Thank you. I feel so blessed that you found me too. I love you dearly. And I'm really, truly honored and blessed to be working with you and to have developed a friendship with you. I love you. And Lisa says, issues in our tissues. Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely. Issues in our tissues, indeed. Exactly. So our bodies, you know, I call it the biocomputer, you know, where we're recording all our experiences all the time. Irma says, same here. So Irma is also one of my treasured people in that I get to play with and dance with in the core connection work. And Irma, it's a blessing to have you in my life, and I love you dearly, and I'm so grateful to be working and growing and enjoying each other together. So thank you. Yeah, so sometimes things get worse before they get better. And I guess that's kind of the foundational message. Maggie's finding my head slippery today. Anyway, this is Maggie. For any of you who haven't met her previously, she's become the star of the show. And yeah, so this healing response, healing crisis, healing response, I think it helps us to weather the challenge. I think the context of healing response, healing reaction, helps us to weather some of the challenges of moving through our growth and our transformation and our physiological health process too. So I know that when we go on a detox diet, for example, a detox protocol, what can happen is you get all these symptoms that I was just talking about. You get headaches, you get nausea, you get gas, you get diarrhea, you get aches and pains that feel like the flu. For me, my lower back was just really fluey, achy, painful. My jaw, it felt like I had a vice on my jaw. And all of this stuff, like I said, to me, in the context of a new protocol or healing, was very, very, ultimately very, very hopeful that, oh, wow, this is something that really is going to make a difference. Because I've known that, you know, my body wasn't in balance. I've known that I had stuff going on that other things weren't really touching. And so to see this kind of reaction was very heartening for me, I have to say. So Rosalind says, have you heard of the Rife machine? I have. And in fact, I have a couple energy devices that are really high level energy devices that also incorporate Rife frequencies. So Rosalind says, Dr. Rife believed if he could find the frequency of disease-causing microorganisms, they could be destroyed using the same frequency emitted by the machine. So I don't know if it was exactly the same frequency, but it was the frequency that would cancel, I think. I'm pretty sure, Rosalind, the frequency that would cancel that the frequency of the element or of the disease-causing microorganisms or bacteria or whatever. So it's really, really interesting because it's kind of woo-woo science if you want to believe the mainstream. But the thing is that there are all kinds of studies that were done with it, maybe not FDA kinds of studies, but studies that in fact, believe it or not, this was so fascinating to me, Rife frequencies were used and I believe are still used a lot in Lancaster County, which is Amish country in Pennsylvania. And they use the frequencies on their land. And there were papers written about this that I read to mitigate pests and to help keep their crops healthy. So Christina says, I have a couple energy machines as well. I'm not at all surprised, Christina. So yeah, pretty amazing. And Rosalind says resonance frequency. That's really what it's all about. And when we talk about manifesting, we're really talking about resonance frequency too. So yeah, Maggie's agreeing. Yeah. Are you agreeing? Do you shake your head? Yeah. So Rosalind says, replying to Christina. Christina, I would love to learn more about it. So one device that I have is called the Indigo, and another one is called the Amp Coil. And the Indigo is supposedly developed from science that was, it's called quantum biofeedback, that would address the health of astronauts when they were off planet, and to do it through frequency medicine. And and the quantum the amp coil is was developed from folks that were very, very much involved with, originally the device was called the Skio, and then it became the Indigo. But the amp coil was developed by people who were using the Indigo, and particularly for Lyme, they were finding that there were limitations to what the Indigo was able to accomplish for results. And so they created this new device that uses like a Tesla coil, kind of like magnetic frequency, to communicate these other frequencies beyond the blood-brain barrier. So very, very interesting. And lots of folks who have had Lyme have had really good results with the amp coil. You can find out about the amp coil on, I believe it's ampcoil.com. And so Robert says, interesting. I know that frequency and vibration can do miracles. Exactly. Maggie is cute. She's getting a little rambunctious now. I am her favorite chew toy. So yeah. Hi, Pat. Welcome. So good to have you here. Electromagnetic frequency. Yes, EMF. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Well, so go check out the amp coil. I think you'll find it really interesting. I'd like the resonance frequency for procrastination, Rosalind says. That's funny. That's really funny. And I'll bet there is one too. I wonder if you go look at Rife frequencies and see if there's something for procrastination. There might be, because their emotions have different frequencies. So you might find that somebody came up with something like that. There are frequencies for love, and it would be really interesting to see if the frequency for love would create a result with water the way that Emoto's experiments created with the water crystals. Thank you, Dido, for the Amp Coil website. Yeah, very, very interesting things with frequency. And ultimately, we're energy, right? So it makes sense. Ouch. It makes sense that we can impact our physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual states through frequency. Makes total sense. So I think that that's going to be it for today, where we were talking about a healing crisis or a Herxheimer reaction, and how that may be a dynamic that holds true for social circumstance as well as personal. Robert says, I know that 432 hertz and 528 hertz frequencies are very powerful. I'm more familiar with different frequencies from that. And I'm not going to quote them because I don't remember exactly. I haven't been steeped in the different healing frequencies at the moment, but you can go online and you can find rife frequencies and see what you can find there. Andrea, you're so welcome. Great to have you here. And thank you to everybody. And Judy, great to have you here. Let's see. Lloyd Mir Energy Balancing by Numbers is an excellent resource for healing with numbers and frequencies. I love that you said that because numbers do have frequencies as well. I mean, it's all frequency when it comes down to it. It's just being able to be sensitive enough to those frequencies to receive their benefits, right? So, on that, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. And it's always a pleasure. I really deeply appreciate you. So Lisa says, thank you so much for speaking thoroughly on frequencies and healing. Needed to hear and understand the process in a different way. That's awesome, Lisa. It was wonderful to have you join us. And I just, again, I want to say thank you all. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Please check out all the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. Join the community, get comfy and familiar, and I hope to see you here again soon. And enjoy. Take care.